I'm going to do a presentation on SuttaCentral and SuttaCentral Voice in English, but with emphasis on how you can find suttas in your language as well, if you like to have some. Now I see that there's quite a lot of Germans here, and next month Samita will also do a presentation about German, and hopefully, at least hopefully it will be the next month, we will have the internationalization complete then, at least for German. Samita is already shaking her head, so maybe that presentation will be for another 2 months, but we'll see.
I think it's uncertain. It's uncertain.
That's anicca. That's the definition of anicca, is uncertain. So we'll see. But basically, the internationalization means that the whole site will be in English, also all the controls and things like that, or in another language, so in German in this case. But that's not the case for all languages. It won't be the case for all languages. There's, I think, about 42 languages on the site. So there's that's going to be quite difficult to get that all done. But for quite a number of languages, it will be done. So, and if you want to volunteer translating some, then please let us know. Anyway, let's get to the site. And hold on, there's a. So can I share screen? Yes, I can share screen. Okay, here we are. Okay, can you see the screen? Yes, okay. I only see you very small now, so okay. All right. So this is the SuttaCentral website that most of you will be very familiar with. So I'll just briefly go over the homepage and the things that you can see here. So this is the Tipitaka, the three baskets. So that's all the texts, basically, the discourses, the Vinaya, the monastic law, and the Abhidhamma. And I'll come back to that later. I'll just skip that for now. You also see a couple of buttons here at the top that you can press and other pages. So I'll come back to that later too. But first I want to show you this lovely little video that most people just tend to skip, but it's actually really nice to watch. And so I just take a few minutes to watch that. I think my connection is just not strong enough to do this. I did it once before and there it worked, but we're on a mobile connection here. So you'll just have to watch it yourself. It only takes 2 minutes and it's really beautiful. So please do. Okay. So if you're new to studying suttas, then you can read through this. And I would certainly advise you to do that and watch here as well, and just look at the introduction and just see how the site, how the site feels and what you can do, etc. So these are very good introductions to start with. These are a couple of related projects, so SuttaCentral Voice that I'll also talk about later on. Buddha Nexus I'll talk about in 1 or 2 months, depending on whether the internationalization of SuttaCentral will be finished or not, and otherwise we'll do this one. And the forum, Discuss and Discover forum, I think you all know, and the Bilara project. Bilara, actually, computer assisted translation. It's the acronym of that is CAT, C-A-T, and Bilara is the Pali translation of a cat, basically. So that's just in case you didn't know, that's where the name comes from. And this is what's helping to translate, because what it does is, like, it's this online user interface where all the texts are being put in, and you can translate sentence by sentence. And when there is if there is a sentence that has already been translated into English, if you're, for instance, working as Samita is doing on the German, then it will tell you what the English translation is as well. If there's a sentence you have translated before, then it will also tell you, oh yes, in this sutta, like 2 months that you translated 2 months ago, you had the same sentence in there, you translated it as this. So you don't have to look in your notes, it's like, oh, how did I translate this again, and go back in all your files to try and see where on earth you had this kind of translation for this word, etc. So you can sort of imagine, without computers, how the early translators worked. It was hellish work. It was a lifetime job to do it. But with this, it's so much quicker. So that's why I wanted to say a little bit more about Bilara. I'm not going to show you Bilara. If you ever want to translate things, then you'll probably see it from the inside. But I just wanted to mention that it exists. So here's a reader's guide to the Pali Sutras. So I'd also encourage you to read through that. I won't go into that today, but I do want to show you this last item, indexes and terminology. It actually comes from Access to Insight. It's a website you probably know, but it's so very useful, and it's all linked to all the suttas. So if I click on this, you see that there's 4 different types of indices. And this first one here is subject. So if you want to know what kind of sutta there is about, for instance, aging, then, there's all these suttas here, and you can click on them, and then you go to those suttas. So, and at any other topic that you want. I really like this one, the similes, because the Buddha gives so many beautiful similes, and I really love them. And so let's have a look. For instance, the one we had this morning in our Sangha was about water. So let's go to W, and here's all kinds of suttas about water and where these different types of similes are being used. So names, if you, for instance, come across this name of a monk, say Sariputta, and you wonder who was that, then you go to that and find, still going down a little bit here. So there's Sariputta, and it tells you who Sariputta is and all these suttas where his name appears, and you can go to each one of those. So, and terminology, that's basically a glossary of Pali English. So any kind of words that you don't know and you want to know a little bit more about. So it's a bit more than a dictionary, it's more like a glossary of these terms. The terms that are used quite often in the suttas that you might want to know. But we'll come to the dictionary. There's also a dictionary, and I'll come to that later as well. Now, we also, here at the top, you have your pathway to, it's the term for it is breadcrumbs, actually, but this is the pathway that you have come. So you can always go back to your home screen here. So here, some more buttons, information about donations if you want to make a donation. Use offline is also very useful. If at any time you're not always online, or you don't want to use your mobile data or something like that, you can download the whole site basically in one language offline onto your device. And you can also add the parallels here, include the Pali texts if you want to, and if you choose the Pali text, you can also do the Pali lookup dictionaries, which I'll come to later. So then you can put download texts in English, and then at the moment it's English. If you want another language, you can choose another language from the menu. So here's the language that you can choose another language from, and I'll come back to that a little bit later. There's a couple of more pages here, like downloads. So you can download all these in PDF format, and I think there's some ebooks, EPUB books as well, for different types of text, so you can have a look at what is there if you want to use it on an ebook reader or something like that. Use dark theme. That's just if you feel more comfortable on your eyes with the dark themes or something like that, so you can do that. Always show toolbar. I'm going to put that on because you might have seen that before the toolbar was moved. Now it's not moving anymore. If I do like this, it disappears. So I like to have it on for now, so I can always go back to. Now languages, that is something that's quite nice to have if you have a different language than English. So here you can see all the languages and how many sutta translations there are on SuttaCentral. So there's the ancient languages. If you want the modern languages, so English, and what would we have on the side is, for instance, is it in, oh, I'm looking at these last ones, Kling and Vulcan. They're a bit fancy kind of fake languages actually, but have a look at them, they're kind of fun if you're a sci-fi fan. But for instance, if you want to have some Polish, then you can go to the Polish and then you can see how many of this. There's only 0.3% of the texts that have been translated, and this is the texts that have been translated, and these are the various translators, so you can see the statistics on each one of these. Now, here there are some more pages that you can browse through with methodology that's been used, how about the numbering and abbreviations and how all that works, etc. And so you can just read through those at some point. Discuss and Discover is the forum I talked about, and then SuttaCentral Voice we'll come to later as well. So let's first have a look at these languages. So there's quite a number of languages to choose from where there's suttas in. So let me go back to the home page and show you what the difference is. I can go back to the home page here in the corner again, here at this pathway. And here you see in the top corner how many have been translated into English, how many of these texts here. So this is all English. If I change that to another language, for instance, French, we sometimes get quite a few French. We see that there's 1120 translated in French. And one thing that I completely forgot to ask is, can you actually read my screen, or should I make it bigger? Is it okay? Okay, I don't see anybody. I can't see all of you. I can only see a few of you. But so, okay. So this is for the French. So I'm going to go back to English for now to show you all the possibilities, and then come back to how to go into these languages. So let's have a look at some of the discourses. So if I click on this, you see all the long discourses, middle discourses, etc. This is not just the Pali discourses, also Chinese, Sanskrit, etc. So let's have a look at the middle discourses, for instance. So here we see Majjhima Nikaya, so that's the Pali. That's why there's PLI in front of here, this. LZH, that's the Chinese. And here's some more Chinese as well. So there's the Majjhima Agama is in Chinese. And if I click on that, and both of them have English translations, as you can see. If I click on this, then it divides into the various books. And I can click on it again and you get the Vagas. I can also do the shortcuts to all the suttas to make it a bit quicker. Okay. So now I have this already preset to small cards. So I see them quite, I see just the heading and the English translator that might be there for, or at least only the first English translator, which is Bhante Sujato. I can also put this other mode on, And then I see a bigger card with lots more information. So it also has a little blurb, as we call it. It has all the translators who have translated this sutta in English, the original Pali text. There's a thing here where you can click and find all the translations of all the different translators. So there's 22 translations in other languages, and then also the parallels to this text. And then you can see also that if I go back to the top here and change that language back to French, this changes as well. So here you get the title in French. The blurb hasn't been translated yet, so that still is in English, but the translator has changed to the French translator. And all the English ones have gone back under here. So I'll go back to English for now. There's another view here as well at the top that says table view, and you can click on that. And that basically gives you all the parallels to a specific text in a table format. That's all there is to it. It's the same information, just shown in a little bit of a different form. Oh, that one. Okay, so there's a couple more things you see up here. So there's this little tree. And if I hover over it, it says recommended for advanced students. So that's a full-grown tree. If I go to the next one, it's a little sapling. And it says recommended for intermediate students. Let's see if I can find, oh, here's an even smaller sapling. And it says recommended for beginner students. So here you can sort of, if you don't quite know which one to pick, you can go like, oh yeah, this is what I would like to read. Here you can also hear everything. You listen to the sutta on SuttaCentral Voice, which I'll come back later. And with this button, you can also copy certain data to your clipboard and use it somewhere else. Cool. Okay. Now, also a little bit about parallels here. So this is the parallels to this sutta. Majjhima Nikaya 1 has 3 parallels in Chinese. And what you're seeing here is, hover over this, it should give me, yeah, this is a full parallel, this first one, and the second one and the third one are resembling parallels. So they're slightly different arrows. So they're not entirely full parallel, but like the first one, that's a complete, but there's parts of it different, or quite considerable parts of it different. Okay, and here there's this big info, and you can read some more information about the parallel itself. And this last one here, that is just one part of the sutta. That's paragraph 25, is quoted in this other text here. It's in a later text. So that's what the quote marks mean. So let's first look at these translations. So you have 4 translations here, but there's a difference here. Here it says English and Pali behind Bhikkhu Sujato. When I go to Bhikkhu Bodhi, it says that's English 2009. So when it says English and Pali, it means you can get the text in segmented format, and you get it, and then you can, that's only available for a limited number of texts. In English is most of the texts of the Nikayas, at least the first 4 Nikayas and some of the 5th Nikaya. In German, there are some, they're not quite finished yet, but Ayya Sabamita is working on that and hopes to be finished before the end of her life. So it is quite a lot of work to do it. So, and in this next one, it's not available with both English. It's just, it's not a segmented text, so it's only the text itself that you're getting. So let's first look at the difference between these, and then I'll also look at the other languages and how that looks. So here you've got this text, so you can just read the text as it is, but there's also a couple of things here at the top. Well, there's the info button, and you can see some information about the text and about the translation. But what, oh, and if I go back to this parallels, then you get again this same card that I just explained. So then you can also jump to another translation if you like. But what's really exciting about this is this views button. And here you can do quite a lot of different things. Now, variants in segmented texts, I think that only appears in the Pali text. But what is one of the most interesting things here is to see it either side by side or line by line with the Pali. So if I do this, you see the Pali next to the English. And this way you can really study the Pali and English side by side, which is very helpful. If you prefer, you can also do line by line. You can see underneath each other. If you click on it again, you have the full screen back again. What you can also do here, I'll come back to the other settings, is if you want to have the numbers, the segment numbers, you can do that here. Or you can, like specific segment numbers for specific text, you can also, oops, what did I do? It doesn't seem to want to go away there. Oh well. All right, so the next thing I want to show you a few more of those settings. I don't know why it's doing that, but okay. Going to the Pali itself. And I'll just click these references off because I find them a little bit annoying. And there's a lot of things that you can do. Variant readings, tooltip on asterisks or show as side notes. You can do as side notes, for instance. And you see this variant reading is appearing here for this word here in this sentence. So that means that there is different editions with slightly different words where you can have a look of the variations in that. This we do not need. This I had already activated, as you can see, the Pali word lookup. And this is something I use quite a lot. I had activated in English. There's also other languages. Dutch is also there, but very limited. But I'll use the English for this demonstration. So then you can go to some word. Let's try any word. Click on it, and you get this coming up. This is the dictionary. Lookup for all these words, and sometimes also for, if I do this other one, for instance, no, it didn't do that for this, but sometimes it tends to split the word into its components and then give you the dictionary entry for each one. And you can also click on one of them and then go to the entire dictionary for that. And also on the bottom of that, adjacent terms, similar spelling. So you can browse through that and find words and what I mean. Okay. Oh, my buttons seem to have. I don't actually know if you jumped. You also with the screen share jumped to that new page. Did you see the dictionary entry? Okay. All right. So that's one thing I use quite a lot. And basically you can do the same thing in Chinese for the Chinese text with the Chinese to English dictionary. You can also, if you really want to, change the Pali script to just about anything that you might find interesting, like Burmese. So I don't know how many people here would use that, but then you know that it's available. And how will we get back to Latin? No, where to get back to Latin? Oh, that's at the top. Okay. So you can also highlight text critical details. I don't know if there's any here. Oh yes, there are a few there. So there's a lot you can do with these Pali texts if you want to translate Pali. So let's now go to a text of another. Let's go to French here. And then we have this card, and it gives us immediately the French translation from Christian Maas. And here we don't have all these options. So we can, this line by line is still set, but it doesn't have those options of showing it's line by line, because that was not one of the texts that can do the Pali next to it. So that's only the English and some of the German ones at the moment. The German ones by Samita, not all the other ones. So so the only thing you can basically do here is to put references in if they exist, but apparently for this text, the references do not exist, so they don't come up. But this is how you can find texts in your own language. Okay. All right. Yes, let's have a look at this bit above here. Here's this little search button. And something I want to show you on this one that's quite, so you can search for anything, for words that might come up, but I want to go and search for something. This is a place name, Rajagaha. So that will show you a map of Rajagaha, of where it is, and I'll come back to that map later. And you can click on this, and then it opens up the dictionary. Or you can have a look below and see all the suttas where this word appears. So, and you can go there and read one of them. Right now, they're all in, as you see, they're all the French ones, because I had my French language set. So it's only the French suttas where this word appears. And if I do English again, the dictionary, unfortunately, is only in English, so that wouldn't work. It doesn't automatically refresh in English, but you get the idea. So if I now go to the dictionary, gives you a whole lot of text about this place, Rajagaha, because it's quite a famous place in the time of the Buddha. And you can also make this map a little bit bigger, and I'll show you a bit about the map. So quite often that's a bit overlooked, and it's actually quite interesting. So if I zoom in a little bit, let's see. So this is a bit of the area. If I zoom out a little bit, this here is the area where the Buddha used to live. And so there's a lot of things there, and you see lots of these different little icons here that are, so you have capital cities marked with these kind of tower icons, towns and villages, temples and features, etc. And if you click on one, let's see if I can find. Oh. It's overlaid with the, I want to go back and to Rajagaha, click on Rajagaha, and then it comes up with this lovely picture of Rajagaha and all the texts that you also saw earlier. And also for all these other places, like here's a temple. So it tells you a little bit about the temple and also in which sutta that appears. Unfortunately, these references aren't linked yet, but I think that's still somewhere on the to-do list. And so with all these little things you can use, this is the Vulture Speak, so a very famous place where the Buddha would would reside, and here's a little picture of it, etc. So you can look through this map like that. And if we go down here a little bit, there's a couple of things that are not checked. And I want to show you these anyway, at least these first two, the Mahaparinibbana journey and the Parayanavaka journey. So these are journeys that the Buddha took and went through various places. And the Mahaparinibbana is, of course, a very famous one because it's his last journey that he took. And if I click on that, you see this line appearing here. And along that line, there is a lot of these little men that you can see. Then you can click on the little men as well, and it will tell you, like, so most of them only are a name, but some of them will also say a little bit more about the Buddha himself. Oh, this here is Kusinara. That's the last place where he went into Parinibbana. So here is the city of Kusinara. So these are a couple of things that you, if you're really curious about where all these things took place, how the Buddha traveled from place to place, and then this is the map to look into. Okay, now I have to figure out how this works. Go back here. Okay. So now let's have a look at SuttaCentral voice. So if I go back to any sutta, let's go back to our Majjhima Nikaya 1. I'll do a shortcut to all suttas. This little button here will bring you to that sutta at SuttaCentral voice. You can also go to SuttaCentral voice in the menu at the bottom. But I'll click on this because that will bring me directly to SuttaCentral voice Majjhima Nikaya 1. That's exactly the sutta I was looking at. And so you can see quite a lot here, and I'm sure Ayya Samita knows much more about it than me, so I'll probably say something wrong. But anyway, the sutta as it is now in the current settings, it takes 20 minutes and 50 seconds, and you can listen to it by clicking this button.
Majjhima Nikaya, Middle Discourses 1. Mula Paryaya Sutta, the root of all things.
I'm not sure if you can really hear it very well due to my system. Otherwise, I have to probably press a few buttons. Anyway. I don't see anybody saying anything, so but I can only see about 3 of you, so I don't see all of you, or all my Zoom has disappeared further than that. So you can also click on this button here, and then you can see at the moment it depends on my settings. There's the English and also the Pali, a little bit the same as in SuttaCentral, except that now somebody is reading it. And the person reading, or it's not a person, it's an automated voice. It's called Amy. And if I don't like this voice and I want like another voice, I can go to this little button on the top, this little settings button, and click on narrator and change that to any other voice. And some of them Bhante Sujato has spoken in, but because it's quite a lot of work to get that done, because you have to do it segment by segment, so it's quite complicated to get it all into the systems, and it's a lot of work. There's all these computer voices that you can also choose from. So let's do Ravina, which is a little bit quicker. And you can also change the website language here if you want to. You can also, the translation, whether you want to show the translated text, the Pali text, show it line by line as we have it at the moment or not. so you can set anything the way you would like it in these things. You can change the bell sound if you don't like the bell that is there, etc., etc. If you want to export the audio, you can also set different settings here. I've already set it to MP3 because I like MP3 on my system. So you can just browse through all these settings and see how you can use that. So this is the download button. So if you want to download it for, then you can do so. So now I've changed it to Ravina, and I click on this.
Middle discourses one. Mula Pariyaya Sutta, the root of all things. Evam me Suttan, so I have heard. Ekam Samaya.
So that's a deal of a different voice. And let me see where, let me see which, just trying to find which one was already, no, that was not the one I was looking for. Here. Maybe you just want to have the translated text and not a Pali text. Then you can also do that if you just want to listen to that bit.
Middle discourses one, the root of all things. So I have heard. At one time the Buddha was being.
So if you just want to listen to it rather than studying the Pali as well, then this is the thing you can do here. You can also here go back to SuttaCentral if you want, or to other audio sources if they exist. They don't always exist. And one thing that's also quite nice is you say this button on the top here. And if you just go to SuttaCentral Voice, then this is all you get. And there's an Inspire Me button, which goes through all kinds of, it just takes a random keyword and comes up with a list of suttas with that keyword. And then you can listen to those. I really like that button. Or you can just, if you know which sutta you want, if you want Digha Nikaya 6, for instance, then it will come up with that. So then you can listen to that one. I click the Inspire Me button, I get a whole list of, okay, so it's chosen the word for me of heard of anyone holding, and it comes up with these two suttas where that word is used, and it also tells me how long these suttas are going to take to listen to. So I'm not going to start up Digha Nikaya 23 because 45 minutes, but so you can also open this up here. Again, same buttons, you can listen to it, you can download it.
Well, Brahmin, I've never seen or heard of anyone holding such a doctrine of you.
So that basically just reads this blurb or this first line. And then there's this one that takes you to the whole, the first few we had with the Majjhima Nikaya one, it takes you to the same thing, so you can read this again. So there's probably a lot more functions that I do not know about SuttaCentral Voice because I wasn't involved with developing it as I was with SuttaCentral. But yes, so I'm going to switch back to the main screen so I can see you all. And if there is anybody who has a question or would like to say something, then please, I see there's some things in the, Sabha Mayuta says, don't take the reading time estimates of voice too seriously. I think it also depends on which voice you choose, because there's some choices, okay, she's shaking her head, but there's definitely some voices that are slower and some voices that are quicker. So it depends a little bit.
Basically, the estimates are way too short. Usually the sutta takes much longer than the estimate says.
So Sutta Digha Nikaya 23 takes about an hour if it says 45 minutes. Okay. Samita also said, did you ever get the offline version to work? I never did. I did actually. Let me go back to my. I'll just share my screen again quickly. So going back to the home page, I'll use offline. I did, for me it did work, at least on my old computer when I tried it, but I haven't tried it ever since. So I must admit that I haven't tried it recently. I did get it to work, and then basically how it should work is that it works exactly as your browser. It works, yeah, you just go to the site in your browser as usual, and then even though you're offline, you can still continue browsing. And you can still use everything. But yeah, I've heard from other people also that there were some issues with it, and not everybody got it to work. I think there was also a lot of issues on it on Apple computers, but yeah, so try and see if it works for you or not. Stop share. Right. Is there anybody else who would like to say something or ask something, or would you like me to demonstrate something? You can just unmute yourself as well. We're with just a small group, so that's quite okay. It's a lot of information to go through. Let me see. I don't know all your languages, I think. So let's have a quick look if I share this again. What we have in the way of languages. If I go back to the home page, I can see the. I was looking for Estonian, but I'm sorry, Jacob, that's not here. Unless it's somewhere else, but here's Swedish. I think that's Swedish, right? So there's 78 suttas in Swedish. And oh, that's one thing I forgot to say is like, how do you know which one? Because there's like 7,000 suttas or something like that. So if you want to know which ones are those, you can then click here and it will tell you each one, how many there are translated. So if I go to the Digha Nikaya this time, it will tell you each time when there's something translated. So, okay, so this first Vagga, there's nothing translated. One in the second Vagga and the third Vagga, there's also one. And if we go there, so here it says 0. So I have to scroll down a little bit until I come to this one. And so this is the one that has been translated into Swedish. So that's how you can follow this pathway to the different suttas. You can always, like here on the top, you can always go back a step to I want to go back to the whole Digha Nikaya listing, or I want to go back to all the long. So you can always go back a step with this. So it's quite helpful as well, especially if you have like many Vaggas, and especially if you go, for instance, to something like the Anguttara Nikaya, then you can have quite a lot of different steps before you're finally at the sutta. So here I am at a different sutta. Let's take this one. There's nothing in Swedish. So I have this whole lot here. I can go back to each one. I can go back to the Vagga. I can go back to every step in that process I can go back to, or just go back to the home page, whatever you want. Okay. So, does anybody have any feedback? Want to say something? The basic thing is you just have to try. You just have to go and look through it. But at least with this, you have some kind of idea what is possible and what's available. And yeah, once there's something that I can show for the lovers of parallels, because I know that there's at least one here. So let me, so that's when we have, let's first go back to English. Okay, English. So you can always like look at this at the top here, this URL as well. If you want to have a shortcut, you can also go to, for instance, where we were Matematikaya 1, and then it will come up. So you can always do that as well. So here we have these parallels, and if you want to know a bit more, and if you can understand Chinese, you might want to know, sometimes these are Pali texts as well that are parallels, sometimes Sanskrit. There's all kinds of languages. So maybe you're very interested in this text and you just click on it and it opens that up too. And so here you see my settings. There's these boxes here. That's the Taisho numbers, which is basically this references. So I can take them off as well. I can activate the Chinese lookup. And then if I click on a word or on any character, it will tell me not only what that each one of those characters means, but also if there's a combination of characters in that sentence. So let me see. What is, yes, this for instance, these first two characters together mean bhikshu, so it means like monk, and these are the separate characters. So you can see when they're combined, they actually mean something different. So that way you can go through it, but it's better used, of course, if you already know a little bit about Chinese and how Chinese is made up and how it works. And if I go, for instance, also back to discourses, there's also these other discourses there in other languages. So you have like Sanskrit, Tibetan, Gandhari, Khotanese. I'm not sure if there's anything Khotanese in there yet. No, there's no Khotanese. There's no actual translations. It only lists the parallels. Prakrit, etc. So there's all these different kind of languages. Not all have. I know that Prakrit has some texts there, apart from that, not here. I think that Prakrit text is probably not here, but in the minor discourses. So it's probably under the Dhammapada ones. Yeah, here it is in Prakrit. It says PRA in front, so you can look at the Prakrit text as well. And the translation also of this of Bhikkhu Ananda Jyoti. So, and this is kind of nice because it also has the meter there for those of you who are interested in this. So, okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions already? Karina.
I'd like to ask, maybe you showed it already and I've forgotten, but is there an overview of all the suttas?
An overview of all the suttas. Let me see. Well, basically, this is the overview. If you go into, or you mean that is I'm not sure what you mean actually by an overview. What we do have.
How they build up.
Yes, it's here like the basket of discourses you have here. So you have these various collections of suttas. So these 4 Nikayas, or 5 Nikayas, and then the other discourses that don't fall into that. So you can, that's basically how they're built up. So if I go to the longer discourses, then the longer discourses split in vagas, and then you have underneath those vagas, you have the suttas. And then you have here this pathway that you've come across along. So you're saying with the middle ones and all these other ones. So, but I think it might be interesting also to read on the homepage some of these passages, like what is here, how does this work, etc. And also this last one, or is the reader's guide of how to go from one, because there's so many and you want to know which one to choose. So and that's why I also like these indexes, because you go to topic. And what I really like is this inspire me button on SuttaCentral Voice that that just picks up any kind of topic for me, and we just start from there. So it's just a matter of starting, and then after a while you get the hang of it, and you get to understand how they're built up, and because there's a lot of repetition in the suttas. A lot of times there is like the sort of smaller suttas, the texts come back in the longer suttas, and so there's a lot of repetition of the same kind of text that you come across again and again. So and that's also a very important way of learning, is that you see something again and again, and that's why the Buddha had so many repetitions also within one text. So that's actually very helpful if you are in a culture where nothing is written down, because that's how you should see these texts. They were all things that the Buddha was going from place to place and talking to the people, and people would remember it. And then after he died, they all came together and they would basically compare notes and just start to compile all these things together. But much later on, actually, it is written down. But they would just recite it over and over again with groups of people. And that's actually a process that is very accurate, because nobody in the group can actually change something. So that's how it was passed on for a very long time. So this kind of repetition, and also the way it is, like we can chant it, for instance. If you're chanting it, you remember it more easily. So, and all this repetition also makes you remember the important points more easily. So that's all part of the learning experience. And that's why Bilara is such a good thing to have, because it repeats so often that, yeah, when I think of Big Bodhi translating everything by hand with notebooks and notebooks and notebooks, of trying to make notes of like, oh, this word I used as a translation here and that, and etc., and then going back again and trying to find it all by hand and all on paper. It's an enormous job. Okay.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else would like to say something, or share something, or have a question? It's already 8 o'clock. So if there's no more questions, I will end. Okay. So let's end with a few minutes of silence. Like I said, I do not have my gong, so I'll just do something. Okay, right. It's 5 minutes of silence. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Muram Bhagavantam Avivaremi Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamma Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaga Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. So it was very nice to see you all tonight. And Samita will be back with hopefully next month with the German presentation, or me with the presentation of Buddha Nexus. So Buddha Nexus is actually a bit more complicated. It's a bit, we don't have any English texts, well, apart from the introductions. So it's all in Pali, Sanskrit, Tibetan, etc. in Sanskrit. But if you're very interested in parallels, then that's must to have a look at. So I hope to see you again then as well. And for those of you on the iSangha, I hope to see you tomorrow morning. Okay, have a wonderful evening, weekend, month, if you're only there for the talk. Okay, bye-bye.